Well, good Sunday evening. Meteorologist Brandon Lashbrook here with a check of the tropics for you, as we have a few areas to keep an eye on across the Atlantic and the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. Covering all the bases, we have an X right there, that yellow X that used to be Invest 96L. Really not going to be seeing any more development from that system. And then we do have a tropical wave that is coming off of the coast of Africa. That is right here. That will be moving off into the west. And that has a medium chance of some development over the next 7 days, where a tropical depression may form later on this week, but plenty of time, of course, to watch that one. Closer to home, what we're watching very closely is we have Invest 97L. That is this big kind of disturbance of some disorganized showers and storms in the Caribbean right here. This is what we would be watching for the next potential storm. The next name would be Helene, as it generally moves off into the northerly direction into the Gulf of Mexico later this week. So over the next 2 days, there is a medium chance of some development as a low begins to consolidate, as there is no center of circulation just yet. It's still a broad area of low pressure. But over the next 7 days, there's a high chance as we'll begin to likely see a tropical depression or storm form and develop by midweek or so, as it begins to move into the Gulf of Mexico. So let's kind of dive into it now. We have a couple models we want to look at. Here is the GFS model in red, and our in-house Barron 15K model in green here. Here's about Tuesday, and both these models are indicating that we'll see an area of low pressure begin to consolidate and tighten up with that counterclockwise flow of spin into the western or northwestern Gulf of Mexico. From there, it begins to move it into the Yucatan Channel between Cuba and Cancun, and begin to move to the north. And notice the contour lines there, they're beginning to increase with how many that are closed off. And these two models are actually in pretty good agreement right now of timing and placement by Wednesday or so, as we go into about midweek of a tropical depression or maybe tropical storm forming. And then from there, we'll begin to see that northerly turn or northerly motion possibly toward the northern or northeastern Gulf Coast later in the week. So here's another look at the 15K model for Barron. You see our area of disturbed weather in the south side there on the screen, just south of Cuba, near Cancun and the Yucatan Peninsula by Monday or so, and then begin to develop, tighten up into Tuesday into Wednesday as a potential tropical depression or storm, and then moving into the eastern Gulf of Mexico by Thursday or so. Now, there is some uncertainty, of course, on the exact placement and spread of exact track, and of course the timing as well. Some of the model runs are faster than others, and some of them are a little bit slower than others as well. So here's an early look at some of the spaghetti models, not for the remnants of Gordon, but for Invest 97L, and you see a general consensus on some of these early model runs, spaghetti plots, to the eastern side of the Gulf of Mexico and to maybe the panhandle of Florida. But like I said, there's going to be a little bit of that spread right now, as there is no center circulation developed in the Caribbean for these models to latch onto. So as we see model run to model run, they begin to place a low where they think it's going to develop. That could very well change between model and model. And so the exact placement and timing of how and when that low is going to form will have big implications on the exact track down the road that it may take. And one other reason for the exact track will be the steering pattern that we need to look at for where the storm will be going. We have high pressure over the area right now as of Sunday, that clockwise flow. That's keeping the area mostly on the dry side and keeping things a little bit more on the toastier side as well to begin the first day of fall. But over the next couple days, that high pressure, notice, will begin to move off into the east. And here comes our area of low pressure down in the Caribbean. We'll be moving off into the north. And then also notice a trough of lower pressure. That's moving over the Rockies, the Plain States, and down from Canada with an area of lower pressure. And that's going to be digging in and splitting our high kind of in half. So now our high pressure is well off into the east over the western Atlantic. Another high kind of develops over Mexico and the Four Corners region. And here's our area of lower pressure, maybe a cutoff low or a trough right in here. And so, of course, hurricane storms, they have a tendency to want to go north toward the poles. And so with a trough of low pressure and a high, our low is going to want to go between these two features, following those arrows. And that would bring that track off to the north. But there is some uncertainty on how this setup is going to evolve. If our trough is a little bit slower, a little bit more weaker, or off to the west a little bit more, that could mean that our storm may take a more of a westerly jog, maybe toward Alabama, coastal Mississippi, or even Louisiana still on the table. However, if our trough is a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, it may be a little bit more off to the east, and then our low may take a little bit more of an easterly jog, maybe toward the west coast of Florida, the Big Bend region, somewhere along that line. So there is this general pretty good spread, even still in the popular ensemble models, the European and the GFS models, of a pretty good spread there of potential tracks, potential outcomes to watch out for. There is a little bit more of a trend toward the panhandle of Florida, but that's far from a lock until we can actually get our low pressure center to actually form for our models to really latch onto. And then, of course, we'll have our data coming in from the hurricane hunters beginning tomorrow as they fly into the NVEST. And that will, of course, bring us more data for our models, and we'll begin to increase confidence and also make the picture a little bit more clear. So, like I said, the panhandle is not a lock right now, as anywhere from Louisiana all the way down the peninsula of Florida will still be in play with a wider range of impacts of possibility. But we'll be watching this, of course, very closely as we go into this upcoming work weekend all along the Gulf Coast. I'm going to keep a close eye on this as well and have your hurricane kits ready to go should we need them. And this model, of course, playing it further out into Friday, may see a landfall somewhere on Thursday or so, but that can still change the course with the forward speed and how quickly this will begin to move out into the more northerly direction. So what we know now is the tropical development is now more likely over midweek or so, Tuesday, Wednesday, in the Gulf of Mexico, as a tropical depression, a tropical storm, even a hurricane is still a possibility as of now. But there is still uncertainty remaining on the specifics of any particular track or intensity. It's too early right now still for those fine details of the forecast, but storm surge, high winds, and rough surf will be a good impact possibility for the areas that the storm will begin to impact. But right now, here in Louisiana, there is no immediate threat. But we're not out of the woods by any means. But we want to, of course, maintain to monitor the forecast daily as we go into this week here in Louisiana and all along the Gulf Coast from Mississippi, Alabama, and even down into Florida as we go into this upcoming work week. And when things do develop and things change, of course, we will let you know first thing here. Of course, we'll be on air and online at beaproud.com for those developments. So stay tuned for that and to the forecast each and every day this week.